Hi everyone, I'm Jo Henderson, and here with me today is our Head of Sales, Scott Wright, and Giles Garnett, our Head of Professional Services. Give everyone a wave.
Hello.
Hey everyone.
Welcome to another Dux-Soup live event, and today's session is all about you guys. Today we're focusing on your questions, and we will kick those off shortly with the ones that you've already submitted, and at the end we'll pick up any of the others that you add in today's Q&A window, which is on your screens. While we wait for everyone to join, I'll just let you know what's coming up in terms of our live events in the next month or so. If I jump on a slide, there we go. We have got on the 28th of July, so we've had a little shift around with our plans because we've got another amazing feature to tell you about. So our next live event on the 28th of July introduces yet another game-changing feature from us. Our new MCP server means your AI can now manage Dux-Soup for you. So you can build campaigns, check performance, refine outreach with simple prompts in ChatGPT or Claude, and you don't even have to open Dux-Soup, which is really awesome. So that is on the 28th of July. There's a button on your screen, I think on the left, so you can book onto that now. So if you register for that, then you can ignore it for the next 2 weeks and then come and visit us. Following that, on the 11th of August is our next 15-minute mastery session, which we are focusing on the data that's captured using Dux-Soup. We'll go over everything you need to know about how to get your hands on the data that you want and how you can put it to good use when you've got it. So that's also on your screens to register. The two buttons are both together side by side. So register for those now while I'm babbling away, and you're all sorted for the next month or so. The resource section today is a bit longer than normal. Where possible, I have linked a question to a relevant article to make it easier for you to find, and I put your name against the question that we are showing, and I've written the article name as well. So hopefully that will help everyone get to where they need to go. But they're all good, and they're all jam-packed full of useful insights and heaps of information. So if you can have a flick through some of those, see what piques your interest and have a look. The recording will be available tomorrow, as it always is, and you'll be emailed with the link, and all the articles that we're sharing today and all the other links as well will all stay live, and they'll be accessible from that recording too. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Giles and to Scott to take away your questions. Let's go with number one.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jo. And hi, everybody, to wherever you're joining us from. And yeah, hi to Scott, who's on the other side of the world from us. So yeah, looks like the sun's still shining there as well. But
yeah,
cool.
My virtual background. It is.
Oh, it's your virtual background, is it? Okay, cool.
Always shining.
I can't see your thumbnail, so I can't really see the detail. Well, there we go. Cool. Cool. Well, I'm going to kick off the question one there, and I'm going to pose this one to Scott if he can pick this one up. So from Peter, who's a non-Dux-Soup user, yeah, if you look on the resource section within the tool, you will find an article about staying safe rather than staging safe on LinkedIn. But yeah, is it safe to use today? Is it safe to use in today's AI environment? I assume what he's meaning is it safe to use Dux-Soup in today's AI environment, Scott?
Yeah, I was trying to read that. I read that question a couple times over too, and I think that's what I took away from it, right? And absolutely, it's okay to use Dux-Soup in today's AI environment. If anything, I've actually found some people. I know this might sound contradictory on some of the questions we might answer, but some people have actually even said, "Oh, I'm going to not put AI, maybe not opt into utilizing it." And then there's people that are because they want to be more in control of their messaging. But yeah, I mean, everybody's using it in some way, shape, or form to some degree or not, right? A lot of people can probably pick it out now. I bet you could make almost like a drinking game of like, is this message AI or not at this point, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, what do you think, Giles?
I think it's how you use it. You know, some people are very comfortable. They've been using it for, months, maybe even years now already. They're much more comfortable operating within that environment. Some people, it's still relatively new and they don't have that level of comfort, but it's a case of building up that level of comfort, that trust in it. But yeah, in today's AI environment, yeah, we all see the really badly crafted AI messages coming in. We've all been recipients of those, whether it's via email or via LinkedIn messages, whatever it may be. But if you use it in a smart way, if you don't try and be too clever with it, and you use it for sort of those real customization, personalization type interactions with people. You know, I think actually sending variable messages in LinkedIn, you're actually making your LinkedIn activity safer, insofar as you're not just doing a copy paste of the same message all the time. And I believe that is a safer way to operate, and the power that it's going to give you, especially with what's coming in a couple of weeks with the MCP server stuff as well, the added power, the variations, etc., it's going to give you, could really unlock even more potential of, you know, combining a tool such as Dux-Soup with the ridiculously fantastic database that is LinkedIn. And apologies, my camera may be switching off every now and then because I have got a poor Wi-Fi connection.
It did switch off actually in that moment. I think I'll just add one comment to this, and then maybe we move on to the next one, because there's a lot of AI questions in here that we'll cover. But one thing I'll mention is, like, what are you using AI for, right? As well, and what do you want to use it for? You know, are you just slapping it on the bumper sticker saying powered by AI, or like getting into the specifics? Some people I've seen use it as a jumping off point to get their ideas started and created for how to create like a writer's block for a campaign. Maybe they don't know how to get started. They'll go to ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever it might be, and go to one of those and say, hey, write me a Dux-Soup campaign targeting these people, right? Like, that's a very simple way to use AI. You can also use it to analyze your campaigns, see how they're performing in the data. That's where the MCP stuff comes in. And then there's also our integration, not the MCP stuff, but the just Claude and Gemini, which will change all the messages that sort of go out just slightly depending on what the person's profile is. But we'll get into that, I think, in some of these later questions.
Cool.
So maybe we can move on to the next one.
Yeah. That was the wrong way. There we go. Let's go that way.
Okay, one more. Oh, one more. Keep going. Okay.
There we go. From Alex, question 2. There we go. Alex from who's a Dux-Soup user. Less is more. What's the ideal length of a message when sending a connection request?
Giles, do you want to start
personally,
first?
Right now, I'm sending blank connection requests at the moment. I'm getting really good levels of success with that because it's triggering people to look at my profile. And that for me is working really well at the moment. So, you know, I mean, Scott, what do you think right now?
I mean, I have this saying, I'll save you the entire story, but it basically said, the saying comes down to, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. So I always do think less is more, is what that comes from. And yeah, you can get it out a lot quicker. I think the ideal range is not packing it full of 300 characters for the connection request, but maybe even half of that. We've been hearing for, a decade now, whether or not people should include a connection message or should they leave it blank. We've been hearing both sides of the aisle, if you will, for people who say, oh no, it's the way you need to go. Don't put a message in the connection request. And we've heard people say, like, you guys are insane. You need to absolutely put a connection request or put a message in the connection request. The way I see this and I approach it is that it depends on the industry. It depends on who you're reaching out to, and it depends on your the list and the intent. For example, if you have a list of people that you're going to be targeting that you know stopped by your booth at a conference, right? Absolutely, you're going to put a connection message in there. Hey, thanks for stopping by our booth, blah, 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 so on and so forth, right? But if you're just doing the atypical, hey, noticed your cool profile and thought it would be fantastic to connect. Yeah, that has been a little played out, right? And so maybe in those cases, decide to not put a message in there. But I'll always say test and let the data tell you which direction you should go. So the best example is if you don't know what to do, create a campaign that does have a message in there to the best of what you think is the ability, and then have the exact same campaign, clone it, and just don't put a message in the connection request and see which one outperforms, and roll 50 into one and 50 into the other and just see which one does better is probably going to be the best way, and follow that through. So I guess the TLDR is I'm not a big fan of the generic kind of messages of, thought you had an awesome profile and thought we should connect, right? I think you should personalize and segment your list to then have a personalized message in there. But I also do see the value in trying to not put a message in there as well. So try both, see which one works for you. Generally though, my limit is about 150 to 200 characters long, in case you were wondering. Happy to share at a later date with those. But Giles, once you're done playing strobe lights with your video, maybe you can notice. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to leave it off for now because apparently I've got bandwidth issues here. But rather than irritating
now you're going to make me
all the time, then it's.
You'll make me look conceited. I'll be the only one that's has a video on. But yeah. But anyways, sorry.
That's all right. But no, I think further to what you said there, Scott. The other thing is not just about connection request message. It's also about your follow-ups. Short and sweet. Absolutely echoing what Scott said earlier. If I'd had more concise. So do think about concise. Do think about to the point, and hopefully that's useful for Alex. If we move on then, because we have got the clock ticking. Best way to build drips that work. I'm new to this, and this comes from John, who is a Dux-Soup user. I don't know if I've seen they're using Turbo if they're using Turbo or Cloud if they're using drip campaigns. Drips that work. Shall I take the lead on this one, Scott, and then you can interject in a moment?
Yep. Please.
Drip campaigns that work. It depends on what you're trying to achieve, to be honest. Mostly people are trying to grow their network, in which case I would be looking at something like maybe some sort of an interaction at the front of your campaign, whether that's a visit or a like a post or a follow. And then a couple of days later, a connection request. So you're getting your name in front of somebody through the notifications, then a connection request, then some sort of within a day or two, an acknowledgement, great to meet you, and then a question in that message, some sort of open question, trying to stimulate an answer, trying to stimulate a response, an interaction, and then leaving it 4, 5, 6 days, and then sending them a reminder. That kind of activity is what I'm seeing working really well for people at the moment. And then beyond, of course, that reminder, maybe leaving it for a week, do another visit, and then coming back around and maybe, hey, we connected a few weeks back, just circling back around to see if you saw my last message. Remember, Dux-Soup picks up responses, so it pauses the campaign for that person if they do respond. But those are the sorts of things I'm seeing at the moment that people are getting really good levels of success with. I'm giving you a really high-level vision here. There are some examples in the resource section there, in amongst all the documents. Scott, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, and what I would say is that when it comes to writing campaigns, I've been using this analogy that it's kind of like, your favorite painter or your favorite artist, right? And you have Jackson Pollock, you have Pablo, Picasso, you have, Van Gogh, you have all these different people, and all of them are fantastic artists, and they all do accomplish the job at the end of the day, but in different ways. And why I like to say that is because, like, with Giles's touch of coming in a little bit more softer up front, I tend to go in a little bit more, I won't say hard, but maybe my first step will be actually a connection request and then a follow-up after that. And I usually do a connection request and about 3 follow-ups that take place over the course of about 2 weeks. And then I'll have a drip sequence that goes out every 30 days connected to that as well, for like just dropping in and giving content. The one thing I will, that I think we both see eye to eye on though, is when you're looking at LinkedIn, it's important to remember that 95% of the people that are on there are not actively looking for what it is that you're offering. So trying to sell right out of the gate, especially in some of your messages up front, a lot of times won't work well. Now, I will say that as a blanket statement, there's obviously exceptions to a lot of this, especially in the recruiting space. You can be a little bit more direct or whatnot, but if you're just trying to sell something, especially in B2B SaaS and whatnot, going slower is a little better. You can actually take a look at that stat. That is an accurate stat. It's called the 95-to-5 rule. If you look it up on LinkedIn, and it basically just confirms that 95% of the people are not interested in what you're offering. So stop trying to sell them up front and instead grow your network, like Giles said, and then use a question to help solicit a reply to then manage multiple conversations. But I'll also say, let the data do the talking. A/B testing is always going to be the best way to go about that. But that was a little bit of theory on there. I do think that Giles's way is a fantastic way to, when you're getting started, just so it kind of goes out a little slower. There's many different ways. You can actually find these on our our website. In fact, I think there's a resource link there. The 10-step workflow is actually really good too. I've read through that quite a few times.
Cool. We'll move on because I think we touch on some more of this later with some of the questions that come in. So let's carry on. Question 4 from Susan. Why can't I enroll people that I'm already connected with into a campaign on a one-off basis? Well, hopefully you can, would be my answer to that.
Yeah.
If you need help with that, Susan, then please contact our support team or ping us a message and we'll reach out to you and we can show you how to do that. If you're connected to people already, absolutely, you can put them into a campaign. Just remember, if you're already connected, you can't send them a connection request. There's an article on our webpage. If you look up nurture, I think, as a nurture sequence, there's a really good article there about building campaigns for existing first-degree connections. Remember that in your campaign settings, there is a checkbox to exclude first-degree connections or already connected profiles. That's a safeguard in there, especially for when you're building a campaign for growing your network, of course. But no, absolutely, you should be able to enroll people that you're already connected to. If you open a profile page in LinkedIn, then the Dux-Soup widget should appear at the side, and then you should be able to just select from the drop-down list and enroll people into the campaign on a one-off basis. Absolutely, you can do it that way.
Yep.
Got anything to add
just
to
adding
that?
one last thing to that is one thing I always say is you can't enroll the same person into the same campaign, no matter what. Like that's just a Dux-Soup rule of law, if you will. You can enroll one person into multiple different campaigns if you'd like, right? And a use case there would be the example of like, you have somebody in a 90-day drip sequence, and then you have an event coming up and you want to squeeze out like one message. You create the campaign for the one message, right, for that event. You can then enroll them into that as well. And they'll technically be enrolled into 2 of those campaigns at the same time if you wanted that to be set up. I think the article that Giles mentioned, and then there's another one that says it's about like how to enroll into how to enroll people into multiple campaigns at once, I believe is what it's called. But maybe I can find that and link it there, but it's on our support site. But yeah, you should be able to do that. So get in touch. Next.
Excellent. Thanks, Susan. Next one. David, Dux-Soup user. Where do I start with Dux-Soup Turbo? Great question. We've got an article, Getting Started with Dux-Soup Turbo. We've actually got a Getting Started article for all of our different editions. There's also supporting documentation and videos on our YouTube website. If you go to our support pages, there's all sorts of guides there to get you up and running. But the Getting Started with Dux-Soup Turbo takes you step by step through the key stages of getting started. So it shows you how to build a campaign, shows you all your different campaign options, and then it shows you how to put people or enroll people into those campaigns or sequences, and then gives you the background as to how everything will then operate. Now, the alternative thing is as well, you can just reach out to our support team and they will guide you as well. They'll provide you with support and guidance. And if needs be, we can always jump on a quick call and hold your hand through the process as well.
Yep, absolutely. And just you're going to have to mentally visualize it, but if you just go to the front page of our website, ducksoup.com, up at the very top of the website, you'll see a bunch of different categories, one for pricing, features, I think another one for blogs. And at the very end, you'll see one that says help. And if you click on that one and you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see a turbo little box there. And yeah, you'll see all kinds of different articles that are in there that are across the board. And there's also a search bar. So you can just search Getting Started with Turbo or Getting Started in general, and you'll be able to find it from there. Or reach out to our support. Yep.
Yeah. Good luck, David, and let us know how it goes. Awesome. Thank you very much, Scott. Onwards and upwards for the next one. What are best practices for recruiting loan officers utilizing Sales Nav and Dux-Soup? Scott, I'm going to hand you this one.
Okay. The best practice for recruiting loan officers. Well, I don't know a ton about loan officers, specifically, so I can't necessarily talk to maybe some of the subtle nuances that or vocabulary you may use in those sort of situations. I have worked with some people, but I pretty much just follow the same framework across the board, which is when using recruiting, because that's what you're basically doing at the end of the day, is you're trying to recruit these people over. if they're currently working at a position and you're trying to get them to come over to your position, you got to kind of give them the reason why they want to, right? Or maybe why that would happen. So I wouldn't necessarily come in and say, hey, we can offer you better commission and offer you this and offer you that. And so if you want to leave your current, position and come over to ours, but maybe going back to what we were saying about best ways to write your campaigns is try to network with them a little bit and write something maybe more along the lines of maybe as a first follow-up message going out, something around the lines of, thanks for the connection, first name, hey, out of curiosity, what's it like working for _C N_, which is the Dux-Soup variable that'll bring in their company name. Again, and what that does is it basically just opens up an avenue for the person to then vent. Oh, I freaking hate it here. I just, I can't, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's so funny you say that, because we actually have a position available for you on these sort of areas, right? So getting them to talk is always a good way to go about it. Or maybe in your first follow-up, you can always shoot your shot. Hey, I work for this company. This is what we're doing. We're actively looking for new candidates, and your background, fit that role in that position. And if you're interested, please feel free to reach out. Here's my phone number and my email if you want to do that. Then the next follow-up that can be scheduled to go out maybe 2 or 3 days later, this would be follow-up number 2 at this point. You could then maybe try and have that more conversational question to just strike up the conversation at that point, right? So that is one of the ways. And then also for searching on Sales Navigator with this, right? You have, that was more on the messaging side, but on the searching aspect of this, so with Sales Navigator, you have your filters on the left-hand side that you can do, and you can get pretty creative with those filters, but you have to kind of like build a story through them. What do I mean by that? Well, take years in current company as an example. That's a filter on Sales Nav. If you do years in current company and years in current position, years in current company, more than 10 years, years in current position, 1 to 2 years. That tells you something about that person, right? That they climbed up the ranking ladder at that organization, and maybe you can include that in your messaging to go about them. So you have those filters on the left-hand side that can do a lot, but then you also have your keyword search box up at the top of your screen. I'm kind of like hoping you guys can mentally visualize this here a little bit. And that accepts Boolean searching, where you can actually type in, loan officers in there, or you can really type in anything and it'll pull those words anywhere that's located on their profile. So that'll be their summary, their skills, their experience, or anything like that. So using the filters on the left plus the keyword search box up at the top to then combine that together can help you create extremely personalized messaging that's going to hit the right person at the right time. But yeah, unfortunately, there's not in Sales Navigator a way to say like loan officers that are necessarily looking for new positions. So you have to kind of make some inferences based on that. Giles?
Yeah, just to add to that, yeah, that's all right. And I apologize if there's some background noise here, but just to add to that as well, I've just forwarded to Joe. Hope she can share it in the chats to you, Jennifer. There's an article under our blog posts. If you go into the blog post and type the keyword filter, it gives you a really good guide as to how to use Boolean search terms and all of the filtering options within Sales Navigator. Building that list is key here, I think. The messaging, of course, is important, but finding those right people is absolutely your first step to being successful here.
Absolutely. And cool. Using some of those other ones like posted on LinkedIn in the last few days as well is a good filter. And there's a bunch more, but
on the platform, yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, question 7. Using AI, how can we change the intro for the second message so the AI doesn't come up with the same personalization line? This comes from Beth. Beth's probably a Turbo or Cloud user then if she's using the AI integrations. So yeah. Scott, you've had a little bit more of a play with the AI stuff compared to myself. So what are your reflections here?
Yeah, so I would need to go look at mine again there, but I've been using the AI stuff pretty heavily. I have ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude hooked up to Dux-Soup, right? But how that works is even though you have all 3 of them connected, it's only going to use the one that is like the most or the one that's on, or the one that's the most recently added, right? But I've tried out all three of them pretty consistently. I have noticed though that some of them tend to reply a little bit differently than others. That different is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just different, right? It's just like the same way how everybody's saying how you use some of these LLMs and you get a little bit of a different message from these or whatnot. So what I would say to Beth on this case is I would say specifically, see if you can try out a different LLM, right? And give that a shot and see how those are sort of coming through. But yeah, I able to see extensively through this AI. I haven't noticed that the messaging was similar. In fact, all the messages were different. But the intro line, I'll have to go back and look, but it didn't stand out to me when I was seeing those, but I will see there. That said though, if that was the case, I would just switch over to one of the other LLMs and turn one of those on and try that out and, you know, get a little bit of a different structure there. There is another avenue to this, but I should just give a warning before I say what I'm about to say. The warning is that, as I pause for dramatic effect, I'm just kidding. But the warning is with the AI integrations that we have, we do not suggest you put prompts in the messages. However, some of our more experienced and advanced users have been playing around with this and have had success in it running just fine by including a prompt up at the top. However, again, forewarning, as you go into this, we do not advise this also from here, because if the AI fails, let's say you ran out of credits on your API key, as an example. If that fails, then what Dux-Soup will do automatically is just send out whatever is the actual text in that message. So that can be extremely negative, right? Where it just sends the actual message with the prompt included into it. But that said, if you do maybe some testing on some friends and family and LinkedIn and just enroll them to see how the message sort of comes out, and then use extensively our AI preview button. Use that quite a lot. You can try testing out like a sample campaign to play around with including a customized instruction prompt at the beginning of every one of your messages. So that could be the connection request, follow-up, in-mail, and so on. But again, do so at your own risk, and we do not advise it from our area here, at least at this time.
I think that's a really good answer, Scott. And you know, I actually had a call with somebody earlier today who wanted to remove dashes from their messaging, from the AI generated messages. So we had exactly that same conversation during that call earlier today. So yeah, and we tried it. You know, we tested it, and we put that command at the front, and it actually then started producing messages consistently without the dashes that they didn't want. So there we go. Cool. All right, onwards and upwards. Just conscious of time now, and hopefully question 8 will appear. With AI being used so poorly by so many to personalize, what's the actual best strategy that works now? Mark is a non-Dux-Soup user, but a LinkedIn user. I think we've covered quite a lot of this already. Scott, any further reflections on this?
Yeah, it's kind of a continuation from my what I just said before to some degree. Where yes, Mark, you're right, and it's kind of funny because it's like there's definitely some irony sitting here where it's like we're AI and these things, and you see the AI messages sort of going out, and people can sometimes spot them from a mile away and whatnot. This actually goes back to what our support was saying, or what I advise about not putting any prompts into your messages necessarily. Because if you just have in Dux-Soup for one of your messages that's supposed to go out, right? You just have the actual message that you would send normally, right? Or automatically with Dux-Soup, right? Hey, first name, blah, 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 yada, yada, right? And no prompts inside the messaging there. Well, if you write it out pretty decently there, Dux-Soup will not change it much, to be honest with you. It's going to take almost the exact same message and add just a tad, just a little bit there. It's not going to make it much longer. It won't make it much shorter. And we'll just add just enough flavor. Exactly, right? And what people still want, though, is they want full control, because they want to get really advanced, and they like, oh, pull something from their, shoe size, work history, or whatever it might be, right? So people get a little, they get a little, they want a little much there. What I suggest though is if you can, creating it from the fundamentals of what we've been built on for the last 10 years of LinkedIn automation, which is basically segmenting your list down as much as possible so that that list can be extremely personalized from an automated messaging standpoint. Flip on the AI switches to that. Don't include any prompts, obviously, inside those messages. And you'll find that the message won't be changed very much, but just enough to what Giles actually mentioned, to where LinkedIn actually might look at your profile in a more favorable way, because each message is going to be inherently different. And so that can play another factor into those. But Giles, did you have something to add to there?
Not really. No, I'm just conscious of time. We've got quite a lot to get through, so I think we should carry on.
Okay, that's it.
Cool. Question 9. How do I, this is from Ricardo, how do I stop one profile visiting automation and start a new one? Also, how do I add new profiles to Pipedrive? How do you, well, I'll start with the second bit. How do I add new profiles to Pipedrive? When you install the Pipedrive connector, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the chat box in a minute, I'll add the support documentation to the Pipedrive integration. I'll add that into the chat box in a minute via Joe. Once you've installed that, you actually get a selection of options as to which profiles are going to make it to your CRM. So you have a drop-down menu saying I want to put everybody I ever visit, or maybe only new first-degree connections, etc., etc. You can determine who goes into your Pipedrive account. So that's how you configure that as part of that Pipedrive integration process. The first part of the question I'm not entirely clear on, or maybe I'm just not understanding it fully. Scott, any thoughts on that?
How do I stop one profile visiting automation and start a new one? I'm not too sure there either. I do know that when you set up the Pipedrive integration with Dux-Soup, the native one, there's a little checkbox that says visit profiles after connecting, where after the person accepts your connection request, then Dux-Soup will automatically visit that profile to get additional data. I'm not sure if that's...
Joe, we've got something
yeah, I'm just going to add to that because I've just checked. Ricardo isn't on here. So rather than carry on with this one, let's move to 10, and he can always get back in touch with us if he wants a bit more information.
Perfect. Well, I've just included the link as well to yourself there, Joe, so you can always forward that on accordingly. Awesome. Question number 10 from Dennis. How do you recommend a broker get started on LinkedIn and Dux-Soup? Now, I think this is almost exactly echoing the question that we had earlier about how do I get started with Dux-Soup Turbo. To be absolutely honest, Dennis, what I would do here is I would install Dux-Soup, go to our homepage, follow the instructions to install Dux-Soup. There we've got some workaround instructions there at the moment in order to facilitate that. Install Dux-Soup and book a call with either myself, Scott, or Lavinia, and we will help you get started. Is the best way to go. We can do a live demo with you. We can talk through how to set everything up, and then we can also, show you, point you in the right direction, and provide you with the appropriate documentation to get you going, depending on what you're trying to achieve as well. Scott, anything to add there?
No, I do something with the business lending blueprint, which I think does a lot of work with the brokers there. But get in contact with us afterwards. And yeah, would love to show you a little bit of a loaded question, but there's a lot you can do. If your brokers are on LinkedIn, then all Dux-Soup's going to do is automate the outreach activity to them, increasing your chances of them maybe utilizing you guys for funding or whatever it might need at that time. So, yeah.
Question number 11. Still confused from Simeon. If I generate lead navigator, how do I get Dux-Soup to process the connection requests and the follow-ups? And secondly, when I set up the secrets in Dux-Soup, do I have to do it again for every new lead campaign? So, Simeon, basically, you've got if you've built your campaign, you've defined your campaign, you're obviously using the the resource there. If you have a look at the 10-step workflow as an example there of a campaign that you could set up, all you then need to do is follow the enrollment process, and then Dux-Soup will start to process the actions. And what I'll do in a moment is, or maybe Scott could do this while I'm talking, go into our support documentation and show that there's an article that says, how do I enroll people into a campaign? And it talks you through exactly how to do that. Now, the most straightforward way to do that, if you've got a lead list in Sales Nav, either go to the lead list itself or go into the search function in Sales Navigator, pull up that lead list, because you can do that within the search functionality of Sales Navigator, and then hit the Dux-Soup icon at the top, hit the Enroll Profiles button, and then just enroll people from there. That's the most simple and straightforward way of doing that. So in the documentation on our support pages, we've got the enrollment instructions there. Once you set up the sequencing campaign, well, it depends. You know, if you're sending the same message out to people, if you're using that same sequence all the time, you can just keep enrolling people into that campaign. Or you may have multiple campaigns and they can run in parallel. What Dux-Soup will do, it'll just alternate actions between whatever campaigns you have active. So say you've got 2 campaigns active, it'll do an action from campaign 1 and an action from campaign 2, and just alternate its way through. So sharing your daily limits across the active campaigns that you have, and just performing the actions that are scheduled to be performed. Do you have anything to add to that, Scott?
No. Just that with Sales Navigator, yeah, you can build those lead lists and then you create a new campaign to enroll people into them. So yeah, create your lead lists, maybe 100 people in each list, and then create a campaign for that and then enroll them into there. And you can do that as many times as you'd like. There's no limit. But yeah, no,
cool.
Nothing further.
Excellent. Onwards. 12. So from David, am I being reduced by LinkedIn for my searches? My LinkedIn search is limited to 25 pages worth of, I assume, results. This used to be 100 pages. This is something I've seen with a couple of users recently. I think in every case that I've seen it, it's with users running a free LinkedIn account. There are big differences between running a free LinkedIn account and paying for LinkedIn. And LinkedIn could well be starting to limit the number of results you see in a search if you're running a free LinkedIn account. They are constantly changing their environment and the limits, etc. So that would be my initial suggestion there. Scott, do you have any observations on that?
No, I have nothing totally to add there, but it sounds pretty much like you're on a free LinkedIn account, and we love LinkedIn here, but sometimes they treat their business like the mafia and charge people for extortion, where if you're not paying for premium or Sales Nav, they reduce down the activity that you can do on a free LinkedIn profile. So yeah, that's what it sounds like is going on. And yeah, it wasn't too long ago, you used to be able to see the number of people in a search results that was there in a free LinkedIn search. You can't see that anymore. It doesn't tell you how many people are in the search results, right? So as Giles mentioned, they're constantly changing things and adjusting it. And you may see it be different for somebody in the EU versus the US and vice versa, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I would also
add there as well. Just to add there as well, I've added a link to. I've sent it across to Joe, so maybe you can forward that on to David as well. We've got an article on our page which explains the practical differences, the LinkedIn practical limit differences between a free LinkedIn account and some sort of paid LinkedIn account. And a paid LinkedIn account doesn't necessarily have to mean Sales Navigator. There are several tiers between free and Sales Nav. So have a look at that article, and hopefully that will help.
One last thing, look up commercial search limits as well, which is most likely which is what LinkedIn has maybe applying to your account at that time. Commercial search limits. Yep, cool.
Excellent. Question number 13 from Linda, who's a Dux-Soup user. What is the best way to send bulk message out to my first 3 connections? I see the 2 dialog boxes. So there's 2 dialog boxes will be the default view you get when you start a new campaign, and connection request and follow up. But I do not want to send a connection request in the message. Completely understandable. What you can do here, Linda, what I would suggest is, first of all, there's nurture your first degree connections in the resource section there within the slides that you should be able to find. You can delete the connection request. There's a little minus button in the bottom right hand corner. There's a plus and a minus. Personally, if you're going to build a campaign or you're going to reach out to your first degree connections, don't do it in just one message. I would really recommend putting multiple steps in there just to give you the opportunity to, get a few messages across to people. Maybe start your campaign with a visit, and then you've got a bit of time, okay, you have a visit done, and I've got my first messages going out a few days later. Yeah, that could be just your outreach message. Massively forgotten part of LinkedIn is your first degree network. The number of people I've spoken to recently, when I've said to people, hey, you've got probably several hundred, in some cases several thousand first degree connections. I bet you've not spoken to 80% of them for several years. And everybody just nods and going, oh my goodness, yeah, I've got this huge resource sitting there. I'm focusing on growing my network, but I've forgotten about the network that I've already got, where there could be valuable prospects, contacts, etc., etc. Anything to add there, Scott?
Nope, I think you covered it.
Cool. 14, from Scott. Oh, it's your namesake. What does the campaign data say, and how do you read it and make an adjustment based on the campaign data? So I think what we're looking at here, if I'm reading this right, will be for Turbo and Cloud users within the dashboard, within the funnel flow, I guess, within the funnel flow, because you've got the stats section there, and then also, I guess, maybe the prospects and things like that. Scott, any have you got an answer for Scott?
I know, right? Us Scots need to stay together. That's for sure. It's a unique name, just like Giles. What does the campaign data say, and how to read it, and how to make adjustments based on that data, right? I think, yeah. So when you have a campaign that has a connection request and a series of follow-up messages, right? When you look at it, the easiest measurement of success is like, are you booking meetings, right? But there's a lot more to that. I'll save you all the TED talk about it. And here's the general sense, is that every single campaign kind of goes through the same couple of battles here. The first battle is that you need to get them to accept your connection. Now, maybe they were already accepted, right, at the time of you creating the campaign, or maybe you're putting a message in or you're not, and you're testing out which message is going to work. But you need to get through that hurdle first. So if you're not hitting what I call usually like a 20% acceptance rate on any of your campaigns after they've been finished, then it might be time to go and relook at that campaign, that list, or that process. The next avenue of this is your follow-up messages, and are people responding? If you have a 20% acceptance ratio, people are accepting, you're growing your network, but no one's responding to you. Well, now that's a clear example that your follow-up messages are not working. So take a look at those and try to see, am I being maybe too salesy? Am I being too pitchy? Am I being too vague? I always use the analogy of like, you would never walk up to a cop and say like, do you like fighting crime? So it's like, why are you coming up to me and asking me about like my Q4 goals or this or that? Like, you don't really care, like be maybe a little bit more specific and put a little bit more thought into the messages that you're sending out to strike up the conversation. And then my last battle I look at is like, if you're getting accepted connections and you're getting replies, but though you're still not pushing those into meetings, that's usually a clear sign that you're maybe having a hard time pushing the conversation forward after they respond. So looking at what they're responding with, maybe they're just saying, great to be connected. And how do you approach that from there? But I do have a slide deck, or actually I think an article on this as well. I'll see if I can dig it up while in between our calls here and go pass it along to Joe.
Right. I will move on because I'm just very conscious of time, and thank you for those who are still with us. What a benchmark reply rate on direct message is from Todor. Benchmark reply rate on direct messages. I was actually again looking at this data with somebody earlier today, and off the top of my head, they were achieving like a 23% response rate on direct interactions or direct messages from so yeah, that was a number I saw earlier today. Scott, do you have any views on this, or Joe, do you have anything to interject with here?
Joe, yeah, is that 85% from?
Yeah, so I just thought I'd let you know the resource that I've mentioned there is actually from one of Tyron's initial webinars that he did with us. And he went through a whole, like a campaign workflow on how he would get this kind of really high response rate. So it's not a benchmark figure, but it was a different way of doing things and a different approach. So I thought I'd include that as a resource there.
Okay. Yeah, I think what I shoot for is, this is going to sound maybe a little high, but I shoot for 35% across the board, right? And if I'm not hitting 35% response rate, granted, that's also taken in consideration that my sample size, the number of people I'm enrolling, usually about 100, right? And I give it some time to mature for the campaign. If I'm not hitting 35%, something I need to relook at actually what I just mentioned. I need to relook at my follow-up messages and see why am I not hitting that, right? And really diving into those. And maybe, yeah, you're coming too hot off the press. Maybe you're letting time take too long. Maybe you have too many steps, too little steps. These are all things to kind of, take into consideration as you go about it. But I like to use 20% as a baseline for acceptance and 30% for response rate. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Excellent. Moving on, 16. I just need more responses from Maurice and Ritu. How do I increase my response ratio?
Let me jump on that for 2 seconds because it's flowing into my throw here. So
perfect.
One of the things I would do, and again, I haven't seen your campaigns, I haven't seen any of this type of stuff, but think about who it is you're targeting, right? And really think about them, put yourself in their shoes for a minute. Like if you're targeting CEOs, and think about how they're approached on LinkedIn all day long. If you're targeting marketing people, how are they approached on LinkedIn, right? Take that into consideration. And then think about all the bad messages that you see personally on LinkedIn, just like everybody else does, and look at those and say, why do I not like that message? And why do I hate it, right? And try to do the opposite and stand out and be different. I like to use the word provocative in question asking, but also don't be super off topic. Like, you don't want to say, hey, what political party are you voting for this year, right? Because it has nothing to do with what you're sort of going. And that's going to take forever to pivot to where you want. Try to come up with a question that is different, provocative in nature to some degree, but that could stand out from everything else. And don't make it too long. Make it more networking first and let the selling come second as a way of just building rapport and having a conversation. Is going to be my suggestions there if you're struggling with getting an increased response ratio.
Cool. Brilliant. Thank you, Scott. Number 17. I've forgotten how many we've got now. From Bath. People just see my message and leave it. How can I get more engagement? Replies on my LinkedIn outreach. And increase the success rate of my campaign. I think that's echoing a lot of what we just answered in those last couple of questions, Scott, really.
Yep. I would just add one, if we're just, it's like I'm almost doing that whole TED talk, but just through each question, which is great. One of the things I do as an exercise when I'm going through this type of stuff with people is I try to say, imagine you're going to a conference and you're at that conference and your prospect is right in front of you, right? And you start talking. What's the first thing you say? You probably look down at their badge. You say, hey, what do you do for Salesforce? And they just start telling you. In your head, you start coming up with the next question you're going to use. What you don't say is, hey, my name's Scott, I work at Dux-Soup, that's so cool, and blah, blah, blah. Here's my website, here's my Calendly, here's this, here's that, here's this, and be like, why are they responding? It's like, whoa, dude, like just, we're at the conference here together, just relax. But that same sort of idea, you want to take the way that you normally would network with people at a conference and you kind of do the same thing over here. Maybe use a message where it's like, oh, what do you do at that organization? So maybe try and readjust your follow-up messages to be a little bit more social, chatty, a little indirect, but just as a way to get them to reply and then carry that conversation on from there.
Cool. Excellent. Hope that helps, Brad. Charles and Michael. Sales Navigator, exclamation mark. I assume what they mean here is Sales Navigator required for Dux-Soup? It isn't. You don't have to have Sales Navigator for Dux-Soup to use Dux-Soup. We generally recommend a paid version of LinkedIn for getting the most out of using Dux-Soup, but you don't have to use Sales Navigator. We've got a brilliant article, Dux-Soup and LinkedIn Sales Nav. It's there in the resource section, and that should show you how to get up and running with regards using Dux-Soup and Sales Navigator in tandem. Scott, anything to add there?
No, do try and find somebody if you're wanting to try out Sales Navigator. I do suggest it if you can swing it, just because LinkedIn sort of allows for more activity. It is not proven though that if you purchase Sales Nav, you can send more invitations or more messages. But they might let you do more searches, like on the commercial search for limits or things of that nature. And then find somebody who has a paid Sales Navigator account that they're currently using at that time. And almost every single individual account has a little present box. It's a referral code, basically. And they can gift 2 months for free of Sales Navigator to somebody rather than a month. If you don't know, I think I still have a couple referrals left. So feel free to get in contact with me on my LinkedIn, and I'll hand out the rest of them that I have. But
nice one.
Yeah.
Cool. Question 19, can I include a tailored ROI link for each customer in a message? And that's from Navdeep, who's a Dux-Soup user. Scott, do you want to take that one?
Can you include a tailored ROI link for each customer in the message? So yeah, you can. It depends though how you want to set that up, right? And setup number one, I'm assuming that you have a list of companies and then you have like a custom landing page for each person. You might be able to leverage something that we have called JavaScript expressions, which I'll need to find the article and share you on that. You could also potentially use our MCP related to this as well to have just one single campaign, but make sure to attend our next week's webinar to learn a little bit more about this. Then if you're using our revisit function on Pro or Turbo, you can upload a list and use custom variables for like P1 and P2. Am I missing anything there, Giles?
No, I don't think so. I think actually, your best bet here is actually probably wait for the MCP server. I've included the article about the JavaScript, the support article around that, which hopefully Joe can forward on to you, Navdeep. But I think those are the main ways of doing that. But I think the MCP server functionality is going to unlock these sorts of things for a lot of people.
Yeah, or the other thing I would say, which might sound like a headache, but if you can group them all together, it's great, is to, you can always just create a campaign for one company or customer, right? And then have that campaign be that specific, URL, then create a different campaign for the other URL and so on and so forth. But I know that could be a little messy too. So yeah, stay tuned for the MCP stuff. I think we'll be able to help you out there.
Conscious of time again, question 20, how to get acceptance and engagement from users who are not hugely active on LinkedIn, lurkers but never posters, from Valeria. That's a really tough one. Getting people's attention is very difficult. There's many millions of lurkers out there. And that is, almost not necessarily the holy grail, but it's, it's very, very difficult. Really what you have to do is consider about how do you make yourself look trustworthy? How do you build your credibility on LinkedIn in order to get people to want to engage with you? That's the main thing. A lot of people who are on LinkedIn, they're lurkers, they're not posters, but they will scroll through articles, they will scroll through things. And if they see your name coming up regularly, contributing, maybe posting, maybe commenting, that sort of stuff, they're far more likely to engage with you than if you're anonymous. So really it's about that whole package of, and we've said it many times, and we should have trademarked the expression, being a good LinkedIn citizen, making yourself visible, having your profile well represented, really strong and reflective of what you're doing and appropriate to your target audience. Those are the ways that you can build trust and hopefully get these people to engage with you.
Yep. Make sure your profile is going to be reflecting. I worked with a nonprofit cancer society at one time, and we actually used the doctor who was the co-founder there, their profile, and approached the nurse oncologists who never checked their LinkedIn, but it worked because it was coming from a very high socialite status of a person, and the messaging and approach to those folks ended up getting them to respond. So it's not that they're not checking their LinkedIn. That might be true, but they'll still get notifications because, as we all know, LinkedIn loves to blow up our email with notifications, right? So chances are they haven't changed those notifications, and there's a good chance they even have the app downloaded on their phone potentially, which might also push through, and you might have hit a market where that has not been touched before and might be the first ones to hit them on these areas. But yeah.
Cool. Andrew, question 21. How do I retarget connection requests from several months ago when they have been part of an existing funnel and data set?
You want to take that one, Giles?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go. Give us a quick answer then here, Scott.
No, I said, do you want to take that one?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying that. Yeah, I can take this. So because you have the functionality within Dux-Soup to switch people from campaign to campaign, you could, for example, build a new campaign to enroll people into, and you can take, from within the funnel, you can actually download data. You can see the people that you've invited who've not accepted. And I think you can also do that now through the prospects button as well within Dux-Soup. You can export your campaign data, see it all in a spreadsheet, and then you can enroll people in bulk into your new outreach campaign, whether that's another connection request or an in-mail. Just remember, people who you've sent a connection request to and haven't yet accepted, you need to withdraw your invite and wait at least 3 weeks before you can re-invite them. One thing I've seen quite a lot of people doing is they will, for example, though, they've got a campaign out there with a whole lot of outstanding connection requests. What they'll do is they'll take the people who have not accepted, and they'll put them into a campaign where maybe you like a post and visit them. Just another sort of gentle nudge, not necessarily reaching out to them again, but actually building them their own campaign to have some other actions happening whilst that pending connection request is still there, so that they're seeing seeing your name again and again. I think that's how I would handle that. Anything to add there, Scott?
No, not really. I think we can move on for this one.
Joe, cool. Was that the last question?
That was the last question. Yeah, we've got a couple which are in the Q&A box from Erica and Linda. Between Scott and I, we've managed, I think, to answer all the others. So Erica asked, what are the best practices around warming up new client profiles with Dux-Soup? She said her profile is already well warmed up, so I guess do the same. But I will ask the question. Obviously, this is to do with client profiles rather than her own.
Yeah. So the thing I would do is we've got 2 articles on our amongst our blog posts, which I'm just sticking into Slack for you, Joe. I believe they're probably already amongst all the stuff already. Sort of giving you the tips as to how to warm up an account, how to avoid restrictions, etc., etc. Follow those guides, and if you've got further questions around that, reach out to our support team. But those are those articles that I've just shared there are updated on a sort of every 6 to 8 weeks, depending on what we're seeing happening on LinkedIn, depending on the changes that we're seeing, and that's how I would handle that. Yeah.
So the articles he's mentioning are the avoiding restrictions, LinkedIn safety article, and expert tips. Automation tips from experts, and both of those are already in the resources, Erica, so have a peep at those. And then the other question was from Linda. Scott, I think, have you just answered it?
I'm not sure. I know there's a couple there, but
do you plan to have a way of giving us a percentage match of the contacts accepting or replying against the job specs? I realise that I can filter in sales now, but I find it quite limiting.
So I haven't given this a shot with the MCP stuff yet. There's a lot that I haven't done. Done a lot of testing there, but those types of questions, should be able to be answered to some degree or not. There's also a way where if you go to the prospect, you can do this manually right now, where if you just go to the prospects tab on the left-hand side and then export all of the data associated with your campaigns, then what you do is you'll have title in there, and you can almost just give that file to ChatGPT or Gemini or of your choice, right? You don't have to do manual Excel jockey work, but give it to those, and then you can ask that sort of question. So you can do that now with exporting the data and then giving it to ChatGPT or whatnot. And then also the MCP might be able to include this, but stay tuned on this next question, or this next webinar that will be coming up in 2 weeks from now. So.
Cool. Thank you. We've gone through all the questions then, which is great, and bang on time as well. So very quickly, we've had, I'll come back to this in a second. We've had a couple of queries about one-to-ones. So if you go to our services page, so duxsoup.com/services, you'll see, if you just scroll down a little bit, you'll see 3 options in terms of getting in touch with us for support. So there's the booster session, the booster pack, they're paid versions, and then there's also a 15-minute support call that you can get. I think John in particular was asking for a one-to-one. So if you have a look at that, see what suits your needs, and you can book it in. And if I just jump back to the previous, just as a reminder then, so the next session on the 28th of July is around building LinkedIn campaigns by using our new Dux MCP server, where you can basically ask ChatGPT or Claude to build your campaign, give you the results, tell you what's going on, give you an update, and it will magically do it all for you. And that's in this session in 2 weeks' time, and we'll be joined by Giles and Scott for that once again, so that we have to look forward to. Also, one last thing, do click on the registration link. I hope it's working now. Thank you, Erica, for pointing out there was a glitch in it earlier. Hopefully that is working now. But when you get the on-demand recording tomorrow, I'll pop the link in there as well, just in case there were any issues, just to make it really super simple to book on. And with that, I think we're done. We're 2 minutes over, which isn't so bad considering the number of questions that we had. So thank you, Giles. Thank you, Scott. And
thanks everyone
for joining us. See you in
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.